The rain hit my window, blurring the sign that said James Sullivan, investigative journalist, when I received an email from an unknown sender. The subject line called my attention. Story tip, commune outside city limits. In it, only an image with 23 people, all smiling with bandages around their heads, and a mysterious note, there is more than meets the eye. By the time the storm thickened to a steady hiss against the glass, I'd already decided to drive out there. I told myself it was for the article. The truth was, I wanted to prove they were just another delusion I could fact-check into oblivion. The compound sat at the end of a long gravel road that hadn't seen maintenance in decades. No gates, no guards, just a hand-painted sign near the entrance that read "The Unveiled Those Who See Beyond." The main house was old but well kept, windows clean, garden beds weeded, everything orderly in a way that felt deliberate. I parked and waited, expecting someone to come out and greet me. No one did. I knocked. The door opened almost immediately. The woman standing in the doorway had no eyes. Not covered, not bandaged, just smooth, empty sockets where her eyes should have been. She smiled warmly, tilted her head as if looking directly at me, and said, "You must be the journalist. We've been expecting you." I stammered something about an appointment, though I hadn't made one. She stepped aside and gestured me in with practiced ease, no hesitation, no fumbling for the doorframe. "Come in. My name is Claire. I'll take you to the others." She led me through the house without a cane, without trailing her hand along the walls, without a single misstep. She navigated corners, avoided furniture, and walked at a normal pace as if her vision were perfectly intact. I followed, notebook in hand, skin prickling with unease. The common room was large and bright, windows open to let in the afternoon light. 12 members sat in a loose circle, talking quietly, some knitting, one reading or appearing to read a book with no braille, just regular printed text. All of them had the same smooth, empty sockets. All of them turned toward me as I entered, their faces tracking my movement with eerie precision. "Welcome," one of them said, a man in his 50s with graying hair and a kind smile. "Please sit. We're happy to answer your questions." I sat, trying to steady my hands as I opened my notebook. "I appreciate you agreeing to speak with me. I wanted to understand more about your community, your beliefs." "Of course," the man said. "We call ourselves the Unveiled because we've removed the veil that blinds most people. True sight doesn't come from the eyes. It comes after you let them go." I nodded, scribbling notes, keeping my tone neutral. "And you all chose to remove your sight voluntarily?" "We didn't remove our sight," Claire corrected gently, settling into a chair across from me. "We removed our eyes. Sight, real sight, came after." "Can you explain what you mean by real sight?" I asked. An older woman with silver hair spoke up. "The world you see with your eyes is a lie, a filter. Your brain interprets light and shape and color, but it hides what's really there. When we removed our eyes, we removed the filter. Now we see the truth. I decided to test them." "What am I wearing right now?" Claire answered without hesitation. "A blue button-down shirt, slightly wrinkled at the elbows, jeans, brown leather boots. You have a scar on your left hand, just below the thumb, shaped like a crescent." She paused, tilting her head slightly. "You got it when you were 11, climbing a fence. You've never told anyone the full story." My blood went cold. The scar was real. I have had it since childhood, but I had never mentioned it in any article, any interview, any social media post. I'd barely thought about it in years. "How?" I started, but my voice faltered. "We see what's really there," Claire said softly, her empty sockets focused on me with unnerving accuracy. "Not just the surface. We see the history, the connections, the things that cling to people." Another member, a younger man with a shaved head, leaned forward. "You've felt watched for years, haven't you? Even when you're alone, a presence just behind you, just out of sight." I didn't answer, but my silence was answer enough. He was right. For as long as I could remember, I'd had the sensation of being observed, a persistent, low-grade anxiety that made me check over my shoulder in empty rooms, glance at mirrors expecting to see something that wasn't there. I'd dismissed it as paranoia, stress, the normal byproduct of working late nights and covering disturbing stories. Claire turned her head slowly, tracking something across the room that I couldn't see. "There's one standing behind you right now," she whispered. "There's always been one behind you. Can't you feel it?" The air shifted. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, and for a brief, terrible moment, I felt it. A weight, a presence, something cold and patient hovering just beyond my peripheral vision. I spun around, nothing. just an empty corner of the room, sunlight streaming through the window. When I turned back, every member in the circle was staring. At the same spot, not at me, at the space directly behind where I'd been sitting. Their empty sockets tracked in perfect unison, following something I couldn't see as it moved slowly across the room. "It's been feeding on you since childhood," the older woman said quietly. "We can see the cord connecting you, thin but strong. It's how they stay attached." My mouth went dry. "What is it?" "A parasite," Claire said. "Not physical. Spiritual maybe, or something else entirely. They latch on to people early, usually when you're vulnerable, lonely, afraid, lost. They feed on attention, on fear, on the feeling of being watched. Most people never know they're there, but we see them." I wanted to leave. Every instinct screamed at me to stand up, walk out, and never come back. But I forced myself to stay, to ask the question I knew I had to ask. "Can you get rid of them?" The room went quiet. The man with the shaved head shook his head slowly. "Not easily. The bond is old, rooted deep, but we can help you see it. Once you see it, you can decide what to do." Claire leaned forward, extending her hand toward me, palm up, an invitation. "We can show you, help you remove the veil. It's not painful, not the way you think. Just a moment of clarity, and then everything becomes clear." I stared at her hand, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The rational part of my brain, the journalist, the skeptic, was screaming that this was insane, that these people were delusional, that I needed to leave immediately and file a report with the authorities. But another part of me, a quieter, older part, whispered that they were telling the truth, that I'd always known something was wrong. Always felt that shadow trailing me, and maybe, just maybe, they could help me understand why. "What happens if I say yes?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You join us," Claire said simply. "You remove your eyes and you see what's real. The world as it actually is, without the lies your brain tells you. You'll see the things that walk beside us, the cords that bind us, the parasites that feed, and you'll be free." "And if I say no?" She smiled sadly. "Then you leave and you spend the rest of your life wondering, feeling it behind you, never quite alone, never quite safe." I looked around the room. Every face was calm, serene, focused on the space behind me with absolute certainty. They believed completely, and part of me, God help me, wanted to believe too. I stood up, shaking, notebook clutched in my trembling hands. "I need to think about it." Claire nodded, lowering her hand. "Of course, the door is always open, but remember, some veils exist for protection. Once you see what's really there, you can't unsee it." I left without another word, walking quickly through the house, out the front door, and into the harsh afternoon sunlight. I got into my car, locked the doors, and sat there for a long time, breathing hard, trying to convince myself that none of it was real. But as I started the engine and pulled away, I felt it again, that familiar weight, that presence hovering just behind my seat, just out of sight. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw nothing, just my own pale, frightened face staring back. But for the first time in my life, I wondered what I would see if I didn't have eyes at all. If the blind claim to see more than you, don't look closer. Some veils exist for protection. Some truths are better left hidden, and some invitations, no matter how tempting, should never be accepted. Follow Midnight Manuscripts for more horror stories.